Hygroscopicity in the pharmaceuticals is the topic. Hygroscopicity is a property of the material to absorb the moisture from the environment. The materials which have this tendency are called as hygroscopic materials. In pharmaceuticals, the raw materials, the APIs, or the in-process materials, finished formulations may have the hygroscopic nature. Hygroscopicity is a very important and critical to understand to make the formulations successful. Hygroscopicity is also a very important critical material attribute for the drug substance and also for the raw materials including excipients. This video will give you complete understanding about the hygroscopicity, classification of hygroscopicity, and how this property affects the formulation development and the drug substance. Hygroscopicity refers to the ability of the drug substance or a raw material to absorb moisture from the environment. It is an important characteristics or property which is to be understood in detail in the pharmaceutical development. If the material is hygroscopic, then the material requires specific packaging, specific handling, storage, and in-process material packaging. So, importance in the pharmaceuticals. It is critical for ensuring the stability, quality, and efficacy of the drug products. Hygroscopicity affects in-use shelf life, expiry period of the drug substance and the formulation. It is to be understood critically for development of the composition and also for selecting the proper packaging. Then, if the materials are hygroscopic or formulation is hygroscopic, then the studies should be undertaken to instruct the storage conditions, labeling instructions, and also hygroscopicity affects formulation performance. Sometimes some materials are hygroscopic in nature, sometimes the API itself has the hygroscopic nature. As per the guidelines and as per European Pharmacopoeia, the hygroscopicity of the material is evaluated by measuring the weight gain. So the material is exposed to 80% relative humidity, that is percent RH, for the duration of 24 hours, and the temperature is 25 degrees Celsius for the storage, and hygroscopicity is determined by the weight gain, and this weight gain is denoted by percent weight by weight gain. So if you are putting 100 gram of the material, for example, how much weight is increased on exposure to the 80% relative humidity for 24 hours will give you idea about the nature of the substance. So category, weight gain and description for the weight gain is given here, the table. The material can be said as non-hygroscopic when there is negligible moisture uptake, that is below 0.12%, slightly hygroscopic 0.2% to less than 2% or 2%, it is called as slightly hygroscopic with minimal but noticeable uptake. But as in the practical, if it is slightly hygroscopic, we should take care of the material while handling and storage and packaging. Then hygroscopic material, if the material absorb more moisture and weight gain increase from 2% to 15%, then there is a significant uptake and it needs a strict control. Very hygroscopic material can absorb more than 15% of the moisture, and thus it is much hygroscopic in nature. So it can be described as having major moisture sensitivity. Some salts are there which can absorb more water. Some APIs are there which can absorb moisture and are hygroscopic in nature. So what are the practical implications of hygroscopicity? If non-hygroscopic, no special storage needed, but still we need to store the materials in well closed containers at cool and dry place. Slightly hygroscopic, store in well sealed containers. Hygroscopic, you can use desiccants and consider the blister packaging. Desiccants like silica gel molecular sieve will help to absorb the moisture from the environment in the container and thus can protect the hygroscopic material from absorbing the moisture. Very hygroscopic requires strict environmental controls and protective packaging. Many of the times, if the formulation or composition or API is hygroscopic, that time the operations like dispensing, manufacturing, packaging is performed under low RH conditions. In conclusion, hygroscopic nature of the material is required to be studied and understood to select the excipients, to design the packaging system, container closure system, to use the desiccants, to define the amount of desiccants, and also to provide the storage instructions. Also, it is required to ensure the regulatory compliance. And hygroscopicity understanding helps in developing the robust and stable pharmaceutical formulations. Because hygroscopicity affects the quality, and that's why it can affect the safety and efficacy. Sometimes if the material is hygroscopic and if it absorbs moisture, that time the impurity levels can get increased. So understanding the hygroscopicity is important in pharmaceutical industry. It is one of the important critical material attribute of the drug substances and also the raw materials. Thank you for watching the video.